Welcome to another episode of the Muffed Punt podcast. My name is Brandon, and tonight is going to be another fun playoff evening. We're going to go rapid fire through our predictions. Last week, I got my butt kicked. I don't know about how you guys did, but I had a lot of fun watching those games, if nothing else. How about you guys?
I don't know how to pick the NFL. It is an art that I am not familiar with.
It was good besides going 3-3 in my picks, man. It's just unpredictable this time of year.
Yeah, it was definitely a lot of fun for me to watch. I felt like, for me, I got off to a rough start, but that Colts game was, if nothing else, a lot of fun. I'll use the words that Paul said. The Zebras tried to make it interesting at the end, but I definitely thought it was a pretty good game throughout. The Colts came out with a lot of steam and then just kind of started to peter out there towards the end and just couldn't keep up. But for me, it was a very enjoyable game. Did you guys have, really quick, before we give Paul our warm-up question, did you guys have a particular game that was your favorite over the weekend?
Wait. The Colts lost?
Yes.
With Phillip Rivers?
Oh, I thought you were
was
about
going
to
to say I was going to jump in and just say I thought that Josh Allen was going to blow him out, but I think it was pretty close.
You know what I was going to do is I was going to take that video. I don't know if you saw the video leading up to the game of the Bills players at practice dancing to, I think it was MC Hammer. And I was going to take that video and send it to you guys and be like, look, Paul's favorite guy dancing to MC Hammer.
He's too legit to quit.
I was just going to say I was surprised about the Rams. And their defense was just smothering. But I still don't know how they won the game with the first quarterback got knocked out like almost within the first few minutes of the game, and then
I was going to say
with no thumb.
Paul's stipulation basically came 1,000% true. He said that if Jared Goff got in that game, they were going to win that game. And as soon as Adams knocked out their starting quarterback, I was like, he just basically lost the game for his team. If he had left that guy on the field, I think they would have been fine. As soon as Goff came in, I was like, you just lost that game.
Yeah, and I mean, between that and first, is Aaron Donald legitimately hurt? Is he is he in danger of missing the game, or is he just out for part of last game?
I haven't heard anything about him being out. Have you guys?
No, I haven't seen anything.
I mean, I'm pretty sure whatever it is, he's going to play through it. But I mean, it looked like he could have.
It was ribs, right?
Maybe cracked a rib, or maybe he pulled a muscle in his stomach. I don't know. He looked like he was ready to come back in and play. But
look, I know I in no way do I claim to be a football player, have ever played the game, but I know what it's like to crack a rib. And if he's done anything like that, then I don't know how anybody can play through the pain like that, other than, getting shot up with medicine. But, and my cracking of a rib was nowhere near as, manly as that, because I coughed and broke one or cracked one. So playing through that pain, if he does play through that pain, it's impressive, because that's not a fun injury.
Man, just remember this for the Secret Santa for next year, that Ralph needs Midol. But
Midol?
Yeah, for the periods when you're coughing and very injured. I don't want to see you get hurt. But if Aaron Donald can't play through one cracked rib, how the hell was Drew Brees out there with 11 cracked ribs and a punctured lung? Like, Aaron Donald he's like a pure blob of muscle. He better be able to get through one rib.
Aaron Donald is a beast. I remember seeing a thing about like his off-season workouts, and he's probably only about 6 foot, but the dude is like straight chiseled, man. He's a beast. I mean, you get the Rams have two of the best players at their position, him and Ramsey. They're gonna give the Packers a hard time, but I'll get to that later. But
I don't want to hear about that. All right, I really don't like that we have to play Jalen Ramsey and Aaron Donald. That's not fair. That's not fair.
Paul, you said you had our warm-up question for the day?
Yeah, so I thought that we had some fun with our game where we just kind of rattled off some stats, and then we had to figure out who it was just based on that. So I wanted to do just a real quick one where we're just comparing two players played the same position. They played linebacker. Both of them are out of the league now. So the first one, 17 seasons. Over those 17 seasons, he missed 44 games, had 2,059 tackles, 31 interceptions, 96 passes defensed, 19 forced fumbles, 41 and a half sacks. The other one played 16 seasons, did not miss a single game, 2,039 tackles, 23 interceptions, same amount of passes defensed, same amount of forced fumbles, and 2.5 less sacks at 39. So, do you guys have any idea who either of those middle linebackers are?
I know who one of them is, but I forget who the other one is.
I'm pretty sure I could have a guess on one of them.
Okay. Who's the one? I'm guessing that you guys know the one, but who do you think the one is?
Ray Lewis.
Yes. Ray Lewis, who had 13 Pro Bowls and is in the Hall of Fame. The other person missed less games, had 20 less tackles, was in 4 Pro Bowls, and that's London Fletcher. Not a peep.
Why do you? I mean, 10 less Pro Bowls in all of that time. I know a lot of people don't really equate Pro Bowls for a whole lot. So do you really just feel like that's just mostly a popularity contest?
Oh yeah, I 100% think that Pro Bowls are popularity. Just take a look at some of the quarterbacks who have gotten in. Kirk Cousins, I'm pretty sure, has been there. He's terrible. But the point is, in that, London Fletcher, he didn't murder anybody that we know of. I mean, maybe it'll come out later. Ray Lewis did. But to me, it's just amazing how the hype.
Wait, hold on. We got to say allegedly. Make sure you put allegedly in there, right?
allegedly, Ray Lewis murdered a guy.
There you go.
Got off. Allegedly. We don't want to have any slanderous material here. So allegedly, Ray Lewis is a murderer. I think you can tell that just by looking in his eyes, but that's just me. But it seems incredible that if you have a certain attitude, a certain swagger, carry yourself the right way, that you can manipulate things into getting into the Hall of Fame, because their numbers, even across the seasons. I mean, there were a couple seasons where Ray Lewis led more in tackles. But I mean, that's tackles. That's all that linebackers are for, especially in the middle. So I just thought that it was interesting that no one ever talks about London Fletcher. And if anybody brings up Ray Lewis, it's, he's the greatest middle linebacker I've ever seen. So just wanted to bring something up to show that numbers can really prove whatever you want them to prove.
Hey, Paul, just curious. I know London Fletcher, he played most of his career with the Washington, right?
Yep.
And St. Louis, was he with the Rams for a little bit?
London Fletcher, I believe so. Hold on. Yeah.
So what not that I'm defending that he shouldn't give, or not that I'm defending that he shouldn't have the accolades that Ray Lewis does, but over the course of both of their careers, season by season, where did their team's overall record, how did that compare? I'm not saying that it makes up anything. I'm just saying that from a national perspective, where you're going to get the attention is going to go to a team that's got a better record. And so, again, I'm not saying that London Fletcher doesn't deserve that credit or the accolades, especially those numbers. I mean, numbers speak for themselves. How many times have you heard that?
Yeah.
But just from my perspective, saying, well, Washington wasn't a very good football team at that point, whereas the Ravens were perennial, playoff team.
Okay, so totally get where you're coming from on that. He started his career with St. Louis, and he started his career in '98, so he was part of the Greatest Show on Turf seasons.
Okay.
So he started there, then he went up to Buffalo for 5 years, and then finished with, looks like, it's either 7 or 8 seasons with Washington.
Right. So he goes to Buffalo and goes into obscurity, almost into the witness protection program. Because, Buffalo during those years could not have been very good.
No.
Especially when you've got a guy in Tom Brady and Bill Belichick running the show in that division for the last 20. So, I mean, again, going back to my point, I'm not defending this. I'm not saying that it's right, but I'm just saying that that has a lot to do with it.
Yeah, Ralph, I totally agree with you there. It is difficult when you go somewhere where it doesn't matter. And I mean, that's kind of luck of the draw a little bit with who's willing to pay you and who's not. He went up to Buffalo because he got paid, and I completely understand that. But being a part of the Ravens defense during the 2000s, I get that. I mean, that's an accolade in and of itself between Ray Lewis and Ed Reed. That was a very impressive team.
I was going to just jump in and say, I agree with Ralph. That was kind of the first thing that popped in my head when you had said London Fletcher, because I was thinking, there's no how many big games did he play in, how many like playoff type games, that type of stuff. And I know with like those type of accolades and things like that's what a lot of voters are kind of looking for, guys that are you see them in the playoffs making plays and stuff. There's I don't know that obviously the stats you don't have the stats and everything available, but a guy that like to me is kind of he recently I think got in the Hall of Fame was Urlacher.
Yeah, Brian Urlacher.
So his like I would like to see his stats versus London Fletcher's, because I would imagine that the Fletcher's probably his stats are way better. I'm sure he played longer though. Just because Urlacher was kind of, he was kind of also that guy that was just came out of college and then was instantly like on the Pro Bowl every year.
Yeah, he was a safety in college too, and he came in and played middle linebacker. Okay, Brian Urlacher played from 2000 to 2012, so 13 years. Let's see, he missed 22, 26, looks like 26 games just off the cuff. 22 interceptions, 15 forced fumbles, 41 and a half sacks, so the same number of sacks that the Ray Lewis had. And tackles are of a similar stance. For the seasons that he played, he was give or take within 30 tackles of both London Fletcher and Ray Lewis.
Yeah. I mean, but that's also the Hall of Fame's weird. So like, a lot of times it can take guys a long time to get in. But I mean, he's definitely seems like he's deserving, but I mean, most people wouldn't even be able to guess.
Well, it's not even the Hall of Fame anymore. As they say, it's the Hall of Pretty Good, right, Paul?
The Hall of Pretty Good guys.
Well, I think we're pretty good and warmed up here. I wanted to make sure that we got through our predictions. It took us a couple minutes to get everything going because we had a few technical difficulties, but we're here. We're ready to go. I want to make sure we get Ralph Watley still happy and awake. So let's roll those predictions if you guys are ready.
Oh, yeah.
All right, guys. So we got divisional weekend coming up. Saturday kicks it off, 4:30. Rams heading to Green Bay, playing the Packers. And right now we have early line. I'm seeing the Packers are a 7-point favorite, and I also see them as a 6.5-point favorite. So give or take a half.
I want Paul to go first on this one.
You bastard. You bastard. All right. So I don't think that Jared Goff is a competent quarterback in the NFL. I think that Sean McVay puts that team together like no one else could. And I think that defense keeps them in a lot of games that they probably don't belong in. I think that Aaron Donald, even though he's not 100%, is going to be a terror because he gets triple teamed more than anybody else in the league. He gets double teamed more than anybody else in the league. And if they kept stats anything higher than that, I'm sure that he would get that the most in the league as well. The guy is just otherworldly. He's J.J. Watt in his prime, Reggie White in his prime. It's just insane. Jalen Ramsey, this is where you're going to kind of see what happens. If Jalen Ramsey beats Devontae Adams, it's going to be tough because there aren't very many people on the Packers that know how to catch the ball. if Devontae Adams does Devontae Adams things, then I think that the Packers win the game handily. Um, I'm going to go with the Packers -7 here on this one. I just don't think that the Rams can keep up with them in scoring.
I mean, I kind of agree with a lot of the things Paul said. I think the Devontae Adams and Ramsey matchup is going to be big for this game because if he shuts him down, then it's all the other guys, which that's going to be a tough task. But I mean, in my opinion here, I just don't see. I mean, the Packers just have enough offense that I think that they'll be able to score enough points to win this game. I don't trust Jared Goff going to Green Bay and having to play in those type of temperatures. Even though I do agree, Sean McVay is a super creative guy. He'll figure something out to, make it tough on the Packers, which their run defense isn't very good. So I would assume they're going to have a heavy rushing attack.
You don't say that.
But
hey, all right, you already went, buddy. You got to pipe down and let the other guy talk. All right.
Hey, your Packers run defense is pretty buns. So I'm still going to take your team to win though. Packers, I'm going with the Packers, but I don't think they cover the 7. I'll say that.
No.
I think the Rams are going to keep it real. It's going to keep it very close.
Double or nothing on last week's bet? Or I'm actually picking a team this time?
I'm not betting. I got my ass handed to me last week.
No balls. If you can't put the wallet out, then shut the up.
hey, we'll be getting to that more next year. I think Ralph's ready to go next.
I agree with Paul. I agree with Terry. If Aaron Donald were healthy, 100% healthy, my gut tells me the Rams. However, you've got Aaron Rodgers, Jones, Devontae Adams. It's a good cast of characters there. But for the sake of entertainment, I'm taking the Rams.
This is the matchup I did not expect to see this week. I did not expect to see Seattle choke so early, if you will. I think it's pretty fair to say that at this point. I'm kind of perplexed as to thinking about what team I wanted to go into. I kind of feel like Ralph. My gut kind of feels like it's going to be Rams. The one thing we talked about the weather a little bit, it's been getting warmer as the week progresses for the forecast for the weekend. So I think it's going to be 33 degrees as I'm looking at now. So it might be not as cold as what we originally thought the game might be. And I also know the other thing is that these two head coaches are friends. They know each other. So I think that's going to get things to be pretty interesting as well. The other thing that I think is probably one of the things I really want to keep in mind for this game is that you have Green Bay's #1 scoring offense against the league's #1 scoring defense. So I kind of feel like I might, defense wins championships. Maybe I'll roll with the Rams on this one. I was waiting for the wrath of Paul. I guess I'm good.
I was waiting too.
I got told to shut the up, then I already went, so I was just sitting here.
When has that ever stopped you before?
I was being considerate, ass.
For the first time in your life. Go ahead, Terry.
Hey, second.
All right, second, we got the late game Saturday night. This one, I think, is going to be a real good one. We got the Ravens at the Bills. Right now, I have it. The Buffalo is 2.5-point favorite on DraftKings, and what's this other one? William Hill has them at Buffalo as a 2-point favorite. After this past weekend, watching that Ravens and Titans game, I remember at the point when Lamar threw the first interception. It was an awful pass, and I was like, "That's it. This game is going to be over quick." And then, man, was I wrong. I mean, they just, they did enough to get done. They got that running attack, him making that long run. The Bills, I thought the Bills obviously played a great game as well. I mean, I thought they're heavy Josh Allen. After losing Zach Moss, I think their rushing attack is going to be they're not going to have much of a rushing attack. So I think it's pretty much on Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs and Cole Beasley to move the sticks. But I think the Ravens defense is playing a lot better. I was surprised that they were able to shut Derrick Henry down. So I am going with the Ravens in this one. I'm going to go with the Ravens in the upset on the road. I feel like they're trying to make up for last year's upset. Losing in the playoffs when they shouldn't have. I think they want another shot at Kansas City.
Everybody wants a shot at Kansas City. Doesn't mean you're going to get one. I think the Bills are going to win this game. I don't see lightning striking twice with Lamar having back-to-back good games in the playoffs yet. And that's not a bad thing. He's
back-to-back. He didn't even have one good game, but go ahead.
Well, he won a game.
Yes.
So
he did win a game. You are right.
In the playoffs. Tim Tebow did that once.
Yeah, right?
Okay, yeah, so, but I got a good feeling about the Bills. I said that they were my Super Bowl pick coming out of the AFC. I'm gonna stick with that. I don't think that the Ravens are gonna be able to stop them. For me, the real X factor here is Stephon Diggs. If Stephon Diggs can get 8 to 12 catches for 125 plus yards and a touchdown, then I think that they're fine. If not, then it's going to be a real low scoring affair and it's going to be a defensive battle. And when you've got a quarterback like Lamar Jackson, who's a freak athlete, then that's exactly what you want, is just the ability to keep the game close. Hope that something tips your way. But I think that the Bills are going to walk out of this one.
Do you think it's more likely to have a defensive battle, or do you think it's more likely at this game that somebody might score 100 points between these two teams?
If there's 100 points scored in this, then I don't think that the Ravens managed to keep it close at all. If this is a high-scoring game, then I think the Ravens get blown out. So if the Ravens want to win, I think it has to be a defensive battle. Or clock management. I mean, it doesn't have to be defensive battle. It's about stealing a possession here, taking a 10-minute drive there. It's all about slowing the game down, getting it over with, because you don't want Josh Allen to get lit on fire.
It's really tough.
God, I never thought I'd say that.
Yeah, okay, Mr. Josh Allen,
I thought you'd
bobblehead.
say it, but really mean it. I said I thought you'd say it, but I thought if you said it, you'd really mean it, that you would want Josh Allen to be lit on fire.
Man, how things have changed in 2020.
Did you see our Twitter post from last week? I said our resident Packers fan admits his love affair with Josh Allen.
You bitch. Y'all are just jealous that me and Josh have something special. That's what it is. Just sheer jealousy.
I thought it was you and Josh's mom.
Tomato.
It all works, right?
Fair enough.
All right, so I think for this game, to me, it's a really tough pick because you have the surging Bills, you have the surging Ravens. I have very little to no faith in Lamar, but I also have had very little faith in the Bills in the playoffs. For some reason, even though they've been surging and scoring points, if I look at these two teams, for me, I look at the defenses. And I like the Ravens defense more than I like the Bills defense. I think the Ravens defense are super amped up. They're ready to capitalize, make turnovers. So to me, I feel like last week the Bills almost gave that game away. Paul even texted me like, "How are the Bills going to screw this up?" And we were kind of contemplating how that might happen, and it almost did. I mean, Josh has made that mistake there towards the end, and I really feel like the Ravens will have the ability to capitalize on that and be able to continue on. I do think if it gets into a high-scoring game, you're likely right, Paul. But I can't pick against the Ravens with them playing the Bills yet. Maybe next year I can take the Bills super-duper seriously in the playoffs, but I just can't do it right now. So I'm going Ravens.
Yeah, I think Paul, I think you're riding solo on the Bills this week. And the reason I say that is, it's Saturday. Saturday games in the playoffs tend to be a little funky. And Ravens are hot. They're coming off beating the Titans, a bugaboo of theirs over the last couple of years, and a familiar foe in the Titans. And um, I don't. It's not that I don't trust Lamar or I don't trust Josh Allen. I think it's going to be a good game. I think this is probably going to be your game of the week, and I just think that Lamar Jackson's hungry. I think he's going to have a good game. I don't think he's going to make the same mistakes that he made against the Titans with that early interception. And I think they come out on top, and I think they cover the points.
Nah, nah. Someone's gonna feed him. He ain't gonna be hungry.
All right, on to the Sunday games. So we have first one 3 o'clock. The Browns heading to Kansas City. Looks like everywhere I see, looks like the line's about this, pretty much the same. Kansas City's a 10-point favorite. I'll just jump in and go on this one, but I'm no way I'm betting against the Chiefs. I'm going Chiefs all the way here. I am very surprised at what I saw from the Browns on this past weekend. But I
Go
think
with the
that there was a lot
Browns.
of luck, a lot of luck on their side early, and then they started to fall apart late, and it was almost like, oh, here we go. But it just, the Steelers just didn't have enough time on that one. But I don't think they're going to have that kind of success against, uh, you know, uh, playoff tested Chiefs team with Mahomes. It's not happening. Chiefs.
I'm not picking against the Chiefs the entire playoffs. They're my pick to win the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I'm super quick and concise for me because I talked a lot on the last one. Just going Chiefs.
What? Come
What?
on. The Browns scored 28 points in the quarter last week. That means something, right? No, it doesn't. It doesn't mean a goddamn thing. The Browns are going to get destroyed. I'm going to go with KC by at least 20 points.
All right, last one of the weekend. We have another rematch between the Bucks and the Saints. Buccaneers heading to New Orleans. Let's see, we've got looking right around 3 points. New Orleans is the favorite at home. Anybody want to take a crack at it?
Yeah, I'll go first. I'm taking the Bucks. I think the Saints are just going to find a way to blow this game. They've been snake bitten for years now. I think this is going to continue to be Tom's off season. I don't necessarily think he's going to make it to the Super Bowl, but I think he's definitely going to make it to the championship game. So I'm taking the Bucks.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go with you on this one, Brandon. It's tough to beat a team three times in a year. Uh, that just very rarely happens. The last time I could think of it is just off the top of my head was when the Packers did it to the Bears to get Aaron Rodgers Super Bowl. It's just tough to sweep a team in the NFL like that. Um, I will say that I think Drew Brees looked really good last week. There were some passes that I didn't think he could make anymore that he made. So I think that it's going to be a close game, but in this one, I think that the GOAT just takes him through.
I think this game's going to be good. This will probably be game number 1A to the Ravens and the Bills for the weekend. You got two Hall of Famers going at it. You got Breeze, you got Brady. Like you guys said, Saints 2-0 against them this season. Real hard to go 3-0 against a team, especially a team that's quarterbacked by Tom Brady and has all the he's got all those weapons. He's got Brown, he's got Gronkowski, Godwin, Mike Evans. The list goes on. So it's hard to beat a team three times in a row, but I think the Saints are going to do it, and I think the Saints are going to face the Rams in the championship game.
Well, for me, I'm going Tom Brady in the playoffs. I'm not gonna go against them. I especially think that Buccaneers are starting to gel on offense. I think they're starting to click at the right time. Plus, they're getting Devin White back for the game next week, which is going to make Alvin Kamara's life a lot tougher because that guy's a beast. Um, but this could certainly be. I mean, who knows? This could be the last time Brady and Breeze play each other. If Breeze decides to hang it up at the end of the season. But I think Tom gets the best of them in this one, and I think the Buccaneers go on to play the Packers in the NFC Championship.
As a Packers fan, who do you rather not see in the championship game if you make it there, Paul?
I want them to play the Saints. The Packers have a really bad history of losing the NFC Championship in really wacky ways to Hall of Fame quarterbacks, and I don't like it. So I don't want to see that happen, and I don't think the Saints can do it because I don't think the Saints have near the weapons that the Bucs have.
So that's going to wrap up our picks portion of the podcast. Definitely want to thank you guys as always. It's always a fun portion for me. Now for the next portion of the podcast, we have to talk about what's going to be the elephant in the room. Before we go there, would you guys indulge me for a moment for a trip down memory lane?
Sure.
So as we all know,
I feel like we need the Wayne's World, like doo-doo-doo, 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 doo-doo-doo.
Yes, love it. All right. So, as we all know, Doug Pederson was fired by the Philadelphia Eagles just days ago. So I thought it'd be fun for us to kind of take a trip back through Doug's career really quick here before we talk about it. And the other thing that I wanted to do is highlight another Eagles coach for us to talk about as well. So here we go. On January 18th, 2016, Pederson was hired as the head coach of the Eagles, replacing Chip Kelly. Despite having Sam Bradford on the roster as the starting quarterback, the Eagles drafted Carson Wentz with the second overall pick in 2016. Right before the 2016 season began, Bradford was traded to the Minnesota Vikings, and Wentz was named the starting quarterback as a rookie. Pederson and Wentz won their first 3 NFL games together, but finished the season 7-9, missing the playoffs. Pederson's second season was much more successful, as he led the Eagles to a 13-3 record, winning them the NFC East Division Championship and allotting them home field advantage throughout the playoffs. Wentz, who was having a career year and was considered a frontrunner for league MVP, tore his ACL in Week 14, leaving backup Nick Foles with the starting job for the remainder of the year. Despite becoming major playoff underdogs due to the loss of Wentz, Foles filled in admirably as the starter, allowing Philadelphia to make it to the Super Bowl. Their first Super Bowl appearance since 2004. Eventually, the Super Bowl MVP Foles led the team in a 41-33 win over the New England Patriots, giving them their first Lombardi trophy in franchise history. On May 3rd, 2018, it was reported the Philadelphia Eagles picked up Pederson's fifth-year option, allowing him to coach the team through 2020. Later that summer, it was reported that Pederson signed a contract extension through the 2022 NFL season. Pederson's third season was not as successful as their previous ones, where they struggled with many injuries to their secondary and wide receivers. After starting 4-6 in the first 10 games, the Eagles proceeded to win 5 of their last 6 games, including upset victories over the Los Angeles Rams and the Houston Texans. After winning their last game against the Washington Redskins and the Minnesota Vikings, losing to the Chicago Bears, the Eagles made it back to the playoffs with a 9-7 record as the 6th seed. The Eagles went on to upset third-seeded Chicago in a defensive showdown, 16-15. However, after a promising start to their divisional round game in New Orleans, the Eagles fell to the Saints, 20-14. This was Pederson's first career postseason loss as a head coach. The following season, the Eagles had multiple injuries for their second straight year. After starting 5-7 in the first 13 games, the Eagles managed to win their last 4 games and finished with a 9-7 record for the second consecutive year, and their second NFC East division title in 3 years. On August 2nd, 2020, Pederson tested positive for COVID during training camp. He planned to communicate with the team virtually during his quarantine, and he relinquished day-to-day head coaching duties to the assistant head coach, Deuce Staley, in the interim. Pederson returned to the team on August 12th. In the 2020 season, the Eagles had their third straight year of injuries, mainly on the offensive line. The Eagles reached a record 14 different offensive line combinations during the season. Pederson faced a controversy during the Eagles' final game against the Washington football team when he pulled quarterback Jalen Hurts out for backup Nate Sudfeld in the third quarter while facing a 3-point deficit. Philadelphia subsequently lost 20-14 to finish with a division worst 4-11-1 record. Although Pederson said the decision was to give Sudfeld the opportunity to play, he was accused of deliberately losing the game to increase the Eagles' draft position. On January 11, 2021, it was announced that Pederson was fired as the head coach of the Eagles. Pederson finished his tenure in Philadelphia with a 42-37-1 record, a 53% winning percentage as a regular season record, and a 4-2 record in the playoffs. So it's definitely an interesting thing if you look back at all of the tenure of Doug Pederson over the Philadelphia Eagles, bringing them to the promised land. But then after one season, seemingly, of just really poor play, then he's already out the door. So I was wondering which one of you guys want to start first in your comments after hearing all of that. Just wanted to kind of put it back in your mind, everything that's happened, since it's been so many things that have occurred over the course of this guy's career with the Birds over the last few years. So what thoughts come to you just hearing all of that?
Well, as the resident Packer fan, and I get to go first for the Packers, so I'm gonna let you guys go first. I just wanted to say, Brandon, I literally do not remember a time before you started talking.
Well, I mean, the first thing I'm just going to say is, as far as Doug, I'm a diehard Eagles fan, and I mean, for him, I'd like to thank him for being the coach. Me along with pretty much every other Eagles fan, we're going to be forever grateful for this guy for that amazing, coaching job he did in 2017 and that insane run, bringing us, first Super Bowl win, the Lombardi Trophy back to Philly for the first time. And some of the, incredibly gutsy calls that he made, during the playoff run that, obviously all Eagles fans will have memories that'll be around for a lifetime. So, for Doug, I wish you good fortune in the games to come. But as far as this whole situation, it's, I had said on the pod about, it was maybe 6 weeks ago, that I was pretty sour on Doug at that point. I thought that a lot of, it just seemed like something just didn't sit right with me with him. His offense was stale, play calling was bad. He's not making any adjustments to help, Wentz, who was struggling mightily at that point. Something just felt off, and we obviously have seen that Doug has been a pretty good coach, for the most part. But I was kind of leaning toward more. I felt like that maybe the message wasn't getting across in the locker room, and that maybe it was time for a change, just for the fact of having like a new voice in there, a new vision, maybe to kind of, reinvigorate things. But the thing that bothers me from all these reports and stuff that I've been, kind of, hearing and seeing, reading, is that it almost seems to me that Doug pretty much wanted out of here because of the overbearing nature of Jeffrey Lurie and Howie Roseman. It seemed that he wanted to. Now, I don't know if he did this as a way to try and get himself fired, but apparently he wanted to internally promote coordinators for both offensive and defensive side now that Schwartz is out. And then I think Press Taylor, he was going to make him the offensive coordinator. And then, Lurie and Howie were like, no way, we're going to bring outside guys in. And I kind of feel like he wanted to get out of this situation. I mean, I would think both of you guys would agree. This right now, everything's a mess. Obviously, the other part of this is the whole Carson Wentz relationship with Doug. That seems to have soured. I think it all plays into this whole thing. I'm a little bit surprised about it. I thought maybe they would give him a mulligan. for this year and kind of let's see what happens next year and go from there. But I'm not really shocked about it either. So
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, somebody asked me today if I, you know, had any inkling or thoughts on, the chances that Doug would be here or not, you know, going in the next year. And I told him, I said, I really felt that it was a 70-30 stay versus go percentage. I really felt that Doug, if anybody's really coached himself into a mulligan, as you said, Terry, I think it would be Doug. I, I'm having a hard time putting the words really how I feel about it, because on one hand, I think he did lose the locker room. I think he did lose the team. I think he did get out coached on many occasions this year. Um, I just don't think that it was all him. There's a lot more that goes into it in the coaching world. It's not just the head coach. Obviously, the head coach takes the most heat, takes the brunt, takes the good, takes the bad, and gets fired in the end. But for me, I thought that they would keep him at least until next year to give themselves probably a little more time to figure out this whole cap situation, get the quarterback situation under control, whatever that may end up being with or without Doug now. And I really felt that they would buy themselves a year to kind of come out of cap hell, make themselves a more attractive head coaching position or team franchise. Because right now, what do you got? You've got an aging offensive line. You've got a quarterback controversy that's just brewing and brewing and brewing. You've got front office disarray in the fact that now there's things coming out about Howie and Lurie wanting to control everything. What kind of place is this for a seasoned veteran head coach to come into? They're not going to want to come into a place like this. They're going to want to come into a place where they know that they can get control, and they know that they have, free and clear cap space, and they've got a good drafting and personnel department. All the things that we don't have in Philadelphia right now. It's not an attractive coaching spot. I heard it on the radio today. They were talking, and they said, I'd put this ahead of maybe Detroit. Think about that. Detroit. They're putting this one spot ahead of Detroit's opening. Detroit is NFL purgatory. That's where coaches go to die. I mean, how can Philadelphia be looked at in such a negative light? And it's all because, in my opinion, Howie Roseman has been given too much power in this position of he got relegated to the janitor closet back when Chip Kelly came on board, and then comes back out and thankfully is part of a Super Bowl championship team. But since the Super Bowl, I mean, he hit on so many players that year during the Super Bowl team. Chris Long and Alshon Jeffrey and the list goes on, and LeGarrette Blount, and these guys that were like 1 year deal, 2 year deal, and some of these deals are still here because he's re-signed them, like Alshon. And I don't think you can let him off the hook. And now you're going to have a brand new coaching staff led by a brand new head coach that has nothing to work with. And unless it's coming from the college ranks, which Lincoln Riley, I think, is one of the people that they're talking about. If Lincoln Riley's head is hired by the Philadelphia Eagles, then I guarantee you Carson Wentz's days are over with the franchise. And I guarantee you that you're going to have a lot of people up in arms over it. Me being one of them, because, again, I'm not a Carson Wentz apologist, but I really feel like his better days are still ahead of him. I don't think he's washed up. I don't think he's trash. I think he had a bad year. And I think if everybody would have just kept their head on straight and everybody came back together and dealt with this like men, that things could have been different. But it's not going to work out that way, and it's a shame for it. But again, I go back to the fact that I don't even know what to say anymore about this team, about this franchise, about the owner. It's disappointing.
So I saw a chart today that was basically the returns that would ranks all of the NFL 32 teams over their draft return over the last 10 years. And this is basically what it says. Perennial contenders Seattle, Baltimore, Green Bay, Kansas City, New England, and Pittsburgh all rank in the top 10, whereas some of the worst teams in the league, including the Jets, Chargers, and Bears, rank towards the bottom. The Eagles ranked 23rd in the NFL during this last 10 years. Not surprisingly, the 2012 and 2013 draft classes, which saw the Eagles net Fletcher Cox, Lane Johnson, Zach Ertz, and Nick Foles, yielded the highest return for the Eagles. These drafts were also two of the better drafts in the NFL in those years, ranking second in 2012 and fourth in 2013 in terms of overall draft return. But that's where the good news ends. In 2014, the Eagles took Marcus Smith, Jordan Matthews, and Josh Huff. That had the fifth lowest return in the entire NFL. And if you examine the 5-year window of 2015 to 19, when Roseman had the final say over the Eagles roster, except for 1 year, the Eagles rank second to last behind only the New York Jets in terms of overall return received from their draft picks. Second to last.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you guys happen to, hear any of the blathering that Jeffrey Lurie had said yesterday, but it was absolute. It was like lunacy. He was talking about that he felt like that Howie had done such a great job with the draft, and that it's not our fault that players get picked before we pick. Like,
What
it
about all
just
the
doesn't
players
make
you
any
get
sense.
picked
Like,
after
what
you pick?
exactly? I mean, look, just case in point, Justin Jefferson was pretty much a lock to be probably one of the most can't miss receivers in this draft. Yet they take Jalen Rager, who, from all accounts, that Howie and Lurie were very high on, and everyone else has him with a third round grade. And now we're stuck with this guy. He still could be good. That's certainly true. Maybe he gets better, but we saw Justin Jefferson this year and what he did right out of the gate with Kirk Cousins. Um, it's and something is just like I don't understand. If maybe it's Lori, maybe it's Lori is just is unwilling to move off of Howie as his general manager, which to me is even like the crazier thought is that Chip Kelly was here for 2 years, and then he handed him over the full control of the roster, which obviously we saw how bad he drafted. But at this point, we've had 5 years of terrible drafts. I mean, the two best players that Howie's picked over 5 years is Miles Sanders and Dallas Goedert. Maybe Jordan Mailata, because he seems like, diamond in the rough that he hit on in the seventh round. But
I was going to say he was
I mean,
almost
other than that,
undrafted.
yeah, I mean, and that's really it's just bad drafting, and I mean that's why they're in this predicament that they're in, because then they had to pay these aging veteran guys, hoping that they were going to continue, you know, the 2017 year that they had, and then you see they start getting hurt, that things just start falling apart, and now this I hate to say it, but this job might not even be as appealing as the Lions job because they have so much cap problems. They're gonna be like 80 million over the cap.
All right, so let's
And you've
talk
got
about
a massive quarterback issue.
that really quick so we can make sure we get Paul into the conversation as well. I pulled up really quick here the coaching vacancies, and some of these have been taken already, so bear with me on this. But this is basically what you can equate it to versus what the Eagles have now. So you have the Jacksonville Jaguars. Their record was 1-15. They're going to have the first overall pick, and they have $74 million in cap space. You have the Los Angeles Chargers, last year's record 7-9. They have the 13th overall pick, and they have $29 million in cap space. You have the New York Jets. Actually, no, didn't they just get the guy from the 49ers, right?
Yep.
So we'll move on.
Soleil did sign with him?
Yeah, the DC.
Yes,
Really?
Soleil. Yeah.
The Atlanta Falcons, their last year record 4-12, fourth overall pick. They have 24. Actually, no, they have negative $24 million in cap space. The Detroit Lions, 5-11, seventh overall pick, $12 million in cap space. Or the Houston Texans, 4-12, no first round pick, negative $18 million in cap space. Bieniemy already said he's not going anywhere unless he finds the perfect job. You have Joe Brady, the offensive coordinator from the Carolina Panthers. You have Tim Kelly from the offensive coordinator from the Houston Texans. Greg Roman, the offensive coordinator from the Baltimore Ravens. Todd Bowles, the defensive coordinator from the Bucks, and a couple others. I mean, we talked about last week Urban Meyer, Jason Garrett. Good Lord, no. So, what do you guys think when you go through the list there? Do you still feel like the Eagles are the next to last option on that list?
From a fan perspective, no, but from a perspective of facts and what's ahead of you, I don't think they're a very attractive place right now. Like I said, I mean, they're giving off the perception of disarray and chaos and confusion in the front office. And if I'm a head coach, now granted, let's keep this in mind. It's one of 32, right? It's one of 32 head coaching jobs in the world in the NFL. And if you can get one, you're gonna take one, right? But it's not going to be a number one celebrity head coach or a hot head coach, whatever you want to call it. Eric Bieniemy is not coming here. Sorry to tell you, it's not happening. Lincoln Riley, I don't think it's happening. You're not going to get a hot, big name head coach. It's going to be Mike Kafka, or they're going to hire from within. And honestly, I'll be honest with you guys, if they hired Deuce Staley, I'd be okay with it.
I would be too, to at least give him a chance. I would be totally fine with it because I mean I would be much happier with Deuce than I would be with Mike Kafka. That's for damn sure.
Yeah, we've been through the whole former Andy Reid quarterback thing, right? Didn't we just do that? And it didn't, it worked out for one glorious season, but to fire one just to go to another exact carbon copy, I don't see how that's going to play well with the Philly narrative.
I mean, if they were to hire a guy like Kafka, first of all, if I was Deuce, I would just walk right the hell out of the whole place because he's waited his turn, and he never even got the offensive coordinator position, which I think he deserved. Based on how long he's been with the team since 2011, and I mean he's been bounced around. I agree. I think he is. I think if it's not him, it'll be Kafka. Just because, no coach, no veteran guy is going to want to come in here with the toxicity in the front office right now, where you're just going to be a puppet to those two. You're not going to ever get any final say on even your coaching staff, and God forbid it, wanting a player. It's not good unless that they finally come to terms with the fact that they have to, they have Lurie needs to stop meddling in the football stuff, and they need to hire a legit general manager that can draft actual talented players. But I'd be fine with Deuce. I think he would deserve it, but I also feel like whoever comes in here, I feel like their hands are going to be tied with a lot of the decisions.
Would you give a guy like Brian? Would you give a guy like Brian Schottenheimer a chance? He just basically walked away from Seattle today.
I mean, at this point, that's why I said to you guys in our group text, with all of these jobs that are open right now, this is kind of the worst case scenario as far as trying to hopefully get someone who's halfway decent at this point. So why not just throw something at the wall for the next year or two until hopefully you can figure out how to get some players in here who can play football.
But here's the other thing. So as you're going to do this interview process with your prospective head coach, what are you going to tell them about the situation with Wentz and Hurts? I mean, are they going to be like making that a prerequisite of who they're going to just determine who they want to hire? Like, do you feel like you can fix Wentz, or maybe do you think you rather roll with Hurts? Like, it's a mess. This is a real mess, and that I feel like that's why they're going to have to go complete unknown, because then it's someone that's just happy to get the job and get a chance. Or, I mean, unfortunately, they hired Deuce, who's been with the organization for a while, and I mean, I don't think that that's a bad hire. I think he's a respected guy in the locker room and in the around the league. I mean, he's definitely, I said he's worked his way up the ladder here, but uh, it's still tough. It's still a tough decision with the quarterback situation being what it is.
Yeah, and I saw that Malcolm Jenkins said on Twitter nobody's asking him, but if he had to pick, it would be Deuce. So definitely interesting. I think with all of that, I definitely will stay tuned as far as the Eagles go. I'm not going anywhere, but yeah, I think shit shows are definitely a great word to describe what's going on with the Eagles organization right now.
All right, I listened to
Yeah.
y'all talk for a while. It's time to learn because you got some flawed thinking in here.
Here we go.
Here we go.
So I don't know if you guys want to grab a notebook or something so you can take some quick notes. I'll learn you a thing or two here. No, I'm just teasing. So first, as a fan of a team in the NFC North, I'm a little upset with you, Ralph, because you said that the Lions are where coaches go to die. No, that's not true. That's where they go to make sure they don't get a career in the NFL. That's the never was place. So get it right if you're going to insult the division. And the Vikings and Kirk Cousins, I can't really defend that. They're terrible. I will say I don't know that Justin Jefferson was as big of a lock as you guys are making him out to be. He had one good year in college. I think that there were other wide receivers that were more for sure things. I will admit that might be a little biased because I'm an Alabama fan and I hate LSU. LSU is the worst. Aside from Auburn, Auburn's the absolute worst, but then LSU not far behind. But so let's move on from that because you can't judge the players in front, but you absolutely can judge the ones that you miss on and the ones that get drafted after. But I want to take a look at the head openings or the head coach openings because you're saying so. Before I go through this, where are you ranking this out of the 7 that had openings this year? Where do you honestly rank the Eagles job 1 to 7? 1 being the best, 7 being the get the hell out of here.
Personally, I would say 4 or 5.
4 or 5?
I'd agree, probably in that range.
Okay. Ralph?
Middle to bottom of the pack, yeah.
Okay. In my opinion, I think that they're probably 6th, maybe 5th. Because, all right, you've got the Houston Texans who don't have a first-round pick. Oh, and by the way, they have a franchise quarterback that wants to get the out of there because of how dysfunctional it is. So the Houston Texans, I think, is a less desirable job than the Eagles because the Eagles, you've got 2 quarterbacks, which everyone always says in the NFL, if you've got 2 quarterbacks, you have no quarterbacks. The only head coaching candidate that they're going to interview that I think has to make a decision on who he's going to go all in with before he takes the job is Lincoln Riley. And that's just because of the Oklahoma ties that he has to Jalen for the year that he was a Heisman candidate. Any other coach, I'm not trading either one of these guys because I fully believe that Carson Wentz can be a top 5 to 7 quarterback in the NFL. I also believe he could be a bust if he's not coached correctly because he's had 2 years where he's gone downhill. Part of it is injuries, especially to the wide receiver and offensive line position on the Eagles. I mean, come on. I saw better wide receivers in the high school playoffs in Wisconsin. So it's tough when you don't have anybody around you. I think the Jacksonville job is more desirable because you have the first pick and all the money. I think the Jets
And you
are
have
less.
one less tax.
What was that?
You have one less tax that comes out of the salaries too. I think that makes a big difference for Florida. They only have one tax that comes out.
Yeah,
Uh,
they're
yeah,
income tax free.
right. But so is Texas. And
Yeah, but Texas has no room. They have tons of room. Texas is,
okay,
I think they have negative 18 million in cap space, where Jacksonville has 70 million in cap space. So you got a ton
yeah,
of million, you got a ton of money, and I can put it right in your pocket. It's not even going to go to the government.
Oh man, here we go, getting all political up in here. I love
Hey, I'm
it.
just saying it would be if I'm a player and I'm looking to get paid, that you'd be very enticing.
Yeah, that's fair. Um, I would rather have the Eagles job than the Lions job because the Lions are the two best players in their franchise history, both retired in their primes. That does not happen to a team. It just doesn't. So I would rather go to the Falcons. I think that's a less desirable position than the Eagles. Part of that is because you've got Matt Ryan and Julio Jones. Julio Jones looks like he's just going to be AJ Green and injury prone for the rest of his career. And Matt Ryan, how did people compare this person to Aaron Rodgers? Matt Ryan and Aaron Rodgers are not the same person. Matt Ryan and current Carson Wentz are the same person. So that's just insane. But I think that you guys are just a little bit jaded in where you think the job ranks. Just and I think that's inherent to being a fan. And I think I can understand that a little bit because I'm a Cubs fan. So I never thought I was going to see a World Series title, and then it happened. I don't care if they lose every game for the rest of my life. They got a World Series ring that shouldn't have happened. But I don't know. I think that Philadelphia, it's a desirable place to go. There's a lot of history there, and I think that Jalen Hurts can be a competent quarterback. I think Carson Wentz can be something special, and we've all seen in this league if you have a quarterback, you've got a shot.
Oh, sorry, go ahead, Terry.
Sorry, I was just going to throw out one of the coaches that we missed earlier, which was a guy that was Brian Daboll from Buffalo. I saw his name pop up, and they were talking about he had been in a whole bunch of different jobs. He was under Belichick's system for a while, bounced around. He had some struggles at offensive coordinator positions like Miami. I think he was in Cleveland, and then he goes to Buffalo. He's there. He kind of does his thing. Look what kind of has happened to Josh Allen. That was something else that I had seen. Maybe he might be a candidate that, yes, I can, come in and maybe fix Carson Wentz, get him back to the form he's in. Plus we see, Buffalo's, offense is pretty nice scheme. So, and, maybe a few pieces here and there, and they might at least get the offensive side, but defensively, the Eagles are still lacking big time.
I've heard there's one team that's actually interested in both of Philadelphia's quarterbacks.
Yeah, who's that?
Is this a joke?
The Raiders. I heard that John Gruden, because he's all over every quarterback he doesn't have.
That's right. He has a love affair with every single quarterback that's not on his team.
Every single one.
Well, I heard Todd Bowles is another name I've heard.
Okay, that needs to go away.
Yeah,
that name, that guy should be a defensive coordinator. He can probably be a head coach somewhere if he picks the right offensive coordinator, but he is not the head coach of the Eagles. If he is, you guys are screwed.
Yeah.
Oh, I agree.
1000%
That's why they're going to pick him.
The pain.
Another name that I heard, which would be like on the just as if they brought him in as the defensive coordinator, was ex-Eagle D'Amico Ryans. Apparently, he's like an up-and-coming coach on the defensive side of the ball. So I would actually be interested to see, because he was a good player.
I think he's too young. He was coming up under the was it Saleh for the 49ers, and I think if Saleh wanted to bring him on to be a DC for the Jets and then kind of continue to mentor him, through the process and allow him to kind of develop that way, I feel like it would work. But I feel like it'd be too early for the Eagles, but I could be wrong.
Too soon.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, I heard his name, and obviously the 49ers have had their defense was unbelievable. They also got bit by the injury bug, but his name was one that was like kind of one of these up and coming coaches, and that's just kind of like it's kind of what I just kind of get this feeling that they're not going to be able to get anyone with any kind of track record because of Lurie and Howie don't want to allow these guys to have any kind of input into players and things like that. I mean, it just seems like anything that they want kind of falls on deaf ears. So they may have to just take the job to get your foot in the door, kind of thing.
Am I the only person that feels like I'm in Wayne's World with the whole diddly loot thing? With how can you be in the same division as Jerry Jones and be basically Jerry Jones for your own team? Like, you see how terribly he runs Dallas, and then basically you're going to do the same thing and emulate that. What about that makes you think that's a good idea?
Jerry Jones got 3 rings, baby.
A long time ago. A long time ago. And then got rid of his coach that helped get him those rings.
Say what?
But I just don't know how you can be in the same division as that guy and then try to run the team the same way and think it's going to be successful.
Because billionaires think that they know better than everybody.
And then look at Dan Snyder too. I mean, he used to try and go out and buy all these high price free agents up every year, and it never works. And then they
remember Albert Hainsworth?
Yeah,
the guy that couldn't pass the what do you call it? The training camp physical, the test or whatever they do, like basic training for football camp, and he couldn't pass it.
He's also the guy that stomped on a dude during a game.
Oh yeah.
Oh, that wasn't just Suh? I thought just Suh did that.
That guy.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Well, all right.
How do all the worst owners end up in the same division? That just seems odd.
Well, we talked about that last week a little bit as well. I feel like it would be a no-brainer to me that I'm like, okay, I'm going to do everything the opposite of what all these other teams are doing. Although I really do feel like Ron Rivera is going to be a pretty competent coach for the Washington football team moving forward. But the other two teams, I have absolutely no faith in pulling their heads out of their butts at all. Maybe if the Giants can keep Saquon healthy, they can do something. But the Cowboys are going to continue to likely be miserable. We're going to likely continue to be miserable next year. So we'll see if maybe one of the other two teams can do something. But what a great time for Washington to finally pull somebody in that can coach a football team.
Well, they got their coach. Now they need to find their quarterback.
And
it's not Taylor Heineke.
Yeah, that's for darn sure. Yeah, definitely need to find a name.
I mean, just real quick. Everyone was so quick to jump on Lamar for not winning a playoff game in his first 2 seasons. Any of you guys, aside from Brandon, because I already told you the answer, but do either of you guys know how long it took Peyton Manning to win a playoff game?
He was it like 4?
6.
6?
6.
Yeah, I was going to say, because when he went to Indianapolis, they were terrible for the first several years of his career.
Yeah, no, I totally get that, but I just think that it's interesting in a few ways, just because I think you've got to look a little bit at the race aspects with, oh, well, Lamar's a bust because he can't win in the playoffs. Lamar's a bust because he's a running back. And I think you've got that card coming into it. And another thing, just how accelerated the world has gotten over the last 25 years, that if a quarterback can't win you a playoff game in the first 2 seasons, then he's a bust. I mean, if you're looking at that, John Elway probably doesn't make it through the beginning of his career. Peyton Manning doesn't make it through the beginning of his career. So it's to me, it was just a real interesting little tidbit.
Yeah, talk to the Philadelphia Flyers and Sergei Bobrovsky and how we sent him off to win multiple Vezina trophies with other teams. Sorry, ran over. Go ahead, Terry.
No. I was just gonna say. I mean, we just talked about Doug after one bad season. Like you're done. But it's just I don't know. You're right. Everyone's too quick to judgment or too quick to make a change. I mean, obviously he's not a finished product yet, but my God, he has so much talent. It's like give him a chance to really get used to to going downfield passing. It doesn't like not all quarterbacks are able to get that within like the time like we saw Joe Burrow this year come out and look pretty good. I mean, but that's not the way it normally works.
That's the exception.
There's exceptions to the rule, but most quarterbacks take some time, and then especially talking about like the hype that Lamar was getting because he was so dynamic and everything, and then he goes, gets into the playoffs and he stumbles and has bad game. You got to give the guy some time. I mean, he's going to be a real problem in like another year or two when he really hones the whole quarterback, the passing aspect of it, because then he could be unstoppable. I mean, because he could roll out and then all of a sudden pull up and throw it, flick it 60 yards downfield.
I think he's still one of the youngest quarterbacks in the league because he came in at 21, I think, his first season. So I just he's got a very high ceiling. He's got a bright future ahead of him. And I just think if you look at some of the better quarterbacks over the last 20 years, you got Aaron Rodgers. He sat 3 years. You got Mahomes. He sat a year, then came in and proceeded to destroy any record of any meaning. It's just the exception to the rule that a kid's going to come in from college and take a bunch of 35-year-olds to a Super Bowl.
We talked about quick to make a decision, and that's kind of what I was going to go to cap off the whole thing about the Doug Pederson conversation with the Eagles. Because if you look back at the Chip Kelly's tenure with the Eagles, 10-6, 10-6, 6-9, and fired. So it's not like they really gave him a whole lot of time to kind of figure things out. It was one bad season and back to college. But if it makes you feel any better, his record after leaving has been terrible. And his record with the UCLA Bruins, I think all time is 10-21. So not so great.
Has he really won that many games at UCLA? I'm legitimately surprised. Like the first year, didn't he go like 0-12?
Yes, well, his record currently, as of this moment, is 10-21 at UCLA.
That's nuts. Good for him. He's turning that around. I mean,
the Bruins
the
had
word
their first...
word was out.
Yeah.
Sorry, Brandon.
No,
sorry,
you're
Brandon.
all good, bud. Yeah, definitely. Well,
he's doing that in a powerhouse conference of a Pac-12 that has like 17 teams in it and can't name the conference correctly. Anyway. Or the Big Ten that has 14 teams in it, used to have 11 teams in it, was still the Big Ten, not to be confused with the Big 12 that had 10 teams in it, the NCAA.
Yeah, well, since Paul just said that, we'll wrap up everything by saying congrats on another national title. I wasn't going to give you too much time to gloat on the show, so...
Ooh, that Nick Saban, a sweet coach down there.
I know you love you some Alabama, so...
I do love me some Alabama. And 7 titles in 13 years as a head coach from the time he won the first to the last. I mean, wow.
I saw
6 and 12 years.
Yeah, 6-12 with Alabama, and then the last year in LSU he had one.
I saw a tweet earlier that said that he's reached that point when you play NCAA football that it gets boring because you just completely house every team you ever play, and then you restart in Wyoming.
Yep, yeah, I saw that too.
I missed that game. I hope they bring NCAA football games back. I've been looking at trying to get the bootleg version because they actually updated the old NCAA football game with all the new logos in a mod online. So I've been thinking about going back and checking it out because they just updated all the graphics.
So they only did it for NCAA 14?
Well,
because that's the only one that still has servers online.
yeah, it wasn't the people who made the game. It was a
No,
modder
no, no.
online.
This is all fan done.
Yeah, exactly.
And this is all since the pandemic that this has been done, because the price of the game before the pandemic was like $35. I've seen it go for as high as 180 over the last couple of months.
Wow, that's just crazy. So it goes to show you how badly people want an NCAA football game. That was a great game. It was very enjoyable. I loved it.
Yeah, it was. But we can't pay them athletes, though. We can't pay them.
Well, we can now. They just can't get their heads out of their butt to make.
No, we can't pay them. Don't tell them.
Yeah.
Shh, they don't know.
Well, I want to thank everybody for tuning in. Make sure you hit like, make sure you subscribe, leave us a comment in the comments section below. I want to thank everybody out there for tuning in. As always, I want to thank you guys for showing up and having a great time with me. We're a couple shows now back to back with all the hosts, and I couldn't be happier. Also, we're coming up on 20 shows. I think this is number 17. So we got 3 more till we hit our 20th episode of the Muffed Punt podcast. So it's before we know it, guys, we're going to be over 100. The excitement is palpable. All right. I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your night. Take it easy now, all right?
Take care.
It's my turn! You told me it was my turn.
You can talk all that you want to, yell and scream, you lost.
It is my
You
turn.
lost the game. Take as long as you want, you still lost.